Matt Krause, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You're in the runoff, so what's your thought about that, and why do you think you are the better Republican for the job?
Yeah, we're excited to be in the runoff, especially when you start off in third place. After Election Day, you're really excited to be in the runoff, but I feel like the momentum is shifting in our direction. And so I think that gives us a real advantage going into this runoff. We're seeing a lot of the grassroots, more committed conservative voters coming our way as they started doing on Election Day, and now they are kind of solidified in our camp. And I think you'll see that our supporters are a lot more intense, a lot more excited, and a lot more activated, which gives you an advantage in a runoff. And we're seeing endorsements come in, like Sheriff Bill Wayburn, the top law enforcer in the county, coming in saying, hey, I want to work with Matt Krause side by side. And so I think that's a strong message that folks are rallying around and coming around us as the next DA candidate.
Speaking of endorsements, so aside from the sheriff, you also have Senator Krause. Your opponent, Phil Sorrells, has former President Donald Trump, former Governor Rick Perry. So what do all these endorsements say about the candidates?
Yeah, well, I think what our endorsements say about us is that they're people who have known me for a long time. Senator Krause and I have a relationship going back many years. Sheriff Wayburn and I go back more than a decade. And so these are individuals that I know personally, that I've worked with on conservative causes and issues for the last several years. And so I think what they say is, hey, we know Matt. We've been in the battles with Matt. We know he's a proven conservative fighter, and so we feel very comfortable getting behind him. And so I think that's what gives a lot of importance and a lot of weight to our endorsements, is these are people that we've known and battled with for a long time, and they see the value in us being in that district attorney's office.
You're a state representative, you're going up against a former judge, and you're both running for DA. So talk to me a little bit about what people need to know about a DA's job and how your experience as a state representative goes up against his experience about being a former judge.
That's right. So if you look at the actual job of a district attorney, they're not in the courtroom prosecuting. They're not doing the day-to-day job of a prosecutor. What they're doing is they're managing the office, they're providing leadership, and they're making the policy decisions that drive the office. And so that's what you do as a legislator, right? You build relationships, you work with the team to get things done. In the Texas House, there's 149 other members that I had to work with to come to agreements to find solutions to get things done for the people of Texas. So I would say actually as a legislator coming from that policy arena, you actually have more experience and better experience than somebody who's never been in that world before. Former prosecutor, former judge has never had to make those policy type decisions that you're going to have to make as the next district attorney. And I think that's why Sharon Wilson has said in the past, it's a policy job. It's an administrative and leadership job. So that's where my experience, that's where my qualifications, that's where my strengths come into play. That's why I think I'm actually the most qualified in this position, because I actually have the experience for the things that are going to take place in the day-to-day office for the district attorney.
In your mind, what are the biggest issues, most important issues facing the DA's office right now that you are going to have to deal with?
Yeah, the surge in violent crime. We're going to have to do something about that. We're going to have to work hand in hand with our law enforcement partners, which again is why it's so important that you have the backing and the advocacy of those law enforcement partners, such as Sheriff Wayburn. You're going to have to work with them hand in hand to ensure that you're doing all you can to drive down violent crime and to keep Tarrant County safe. We've seen effects from the porous border policies of the Biden administration that have allowed surges in drug trafficking and human trafficking here in Tarrant County. So it's going to be incumbent on the next DA to take an active, proactive role to cut down on those. The evil practice of human trafficking, we have to completely snuff out here, and we have to find out ways to cut down whether it's fentanyl or other drugs that are being trafficked that are killing folks in Tarrant County. We have to take a proactive approach there. Election integrity is a big issue for the next district attorney, because that Court of Criminal Appeals decision that came down a couple of months back that said the Attorney General of Texas doesn't really have jurisdiction or the ability to do anything there. That's up to the county and district attorney. So if election integrity is important to you, you need to find a district attorney that's going to be proactive on that issue. And I've shown in my time as a legislator that that's an issue that's been very important to me. And so low bail is also another thing that we have to talk about. We've seen even even in recent instances where violent criminals have been let out on low bonds to go back onto the street and unfortunately commit more crimes. What we have to do is make sure we're working again with our law enforcement partners and with our judges in our court system to ensure that doesn't happen again. Those are four of the biggest things that I see that the DA is going to have to tackle when they come into the office. I've got a proven conservative record of fighting and tackling each one of those issues in the legislature. I will do that also in the DA's office.
Last question to you is about your job as a DA if you're elected. We saw Sharon Wilson come out recently and criticize some of the judges for the bonds that they allowed to be posted, which were lower bonds, I guess, and that generated some criticism. So where are you on this issue as a DA? Is it appropriate to come out and oppose judges for some of the bonds or sentences that they may hand out?
Well, again, being in the legislature, one thing that's a positive, could be a negative for me, is that I've got a proven record on pretty much all these issues. And so the Damon Allen Act, which we passed in the last special, one of the last special sessions in the 87th legislative session, actually said we've got to cut down on these low bonds for violent criminals. And so we took steps to empower and give knowledge to judges, magistrates, and others who are setting these bail amounts so that these kinds of things didn't happen. So I want to continue to work with our court system. I want to continue to work with our judges. If something like this were to happen, why did this happen? Is there something we can be doing better? Is there something our office can be doing better? Is there more knowledge that we can be giving you ahead of time to where this doesn't happen again? So I think it all comes back down to communication and leadership and management, which is those are my strengths, those are my experiences, which is why I think that makes me the best choice for Tarrant County District Attorney, and I hope Republican primary runoff voters agree.
Matt Krause, thank you so much. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Jack.
it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.